Who are some of our favorite 2024 Day 2 NFL Draft prospects? We're going to talk about this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I am a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. You know I got to kick this intro to my guy, Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at TheTalentCode. You talk to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ of those LSU Tigers, man. And the other side to this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, where we are your number one source for everything NFL draft content. We talking draft prospects. We talking draft strategies. Every Monday we have a mock draft Monday, man. So I want to say simply this. Shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. DP, we are talking about some of these day two prospects, right? I think the first round has been beaten to a pulp, right? Like first round, we've talked about it. What we're going to do, get into some of our favorite day two prospects, right? Who do we like on day two that has the potential to really turn a franchise around? Then we're going to get into our sleeper prospects. Yes, we are 10, 12 days away from the draft, and there's still a couple draft sleepers out there. Then we're going to talk about our perfect fits, right? We picked a prospect, we picked the NFL team, and we say this needs to happen because it is mutually beneficial for both parties. But DP, before we get started, man, why don't you hit them with our title sponsor?
LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Favorite day two prospects, Keith, talking about second and third round. I got to go, and this is a guy I think we talked about recently in the past couple of days. Texas A&M linebacker Edgerrin Cooper, Keith. Like, I love this kid. I love his game, love his versatility, the athletic profile that he has, right? You know, a young man that can do multiple things. You know, my slogan, the more you can do, the better. Not only can he play as a stack backer, you know what I mean, as, you know, behind the defensive line, he'll walk down on the edge. He can drop off in the coverage. He can play some man. He also can spy athletic corners, right? You know, athletic quarterbacks, I'm sorry. Think about the game against Alabama. Who's one of the most athletic quarterbacks in all of college football? Jalen Milroe. Not only is he athletic, he's built like a tight end, right? Yep, so that's already a physical itself to try and corral. But watching Edgerrin be able to drop off, spy him, but then also close space. His lateral, he plays with, to me, not only does he have the lateral agility and athleticism, he has urgency moving laterally. Whereas he's scraping across sideline to sideline, he's gaining ground. Too many times, Keith, I see linebackers, they'll scrape, but it's very not, I won't say deliberate, but it's like they're thinking. They're not really reacting to what's going on. They're not getting to a spot. They're just kind of slowly trotting across the field. So they're trying to play kind of almost kind of cheated, play halfway to the point. Like, all right, I want to get to that halfway spot of where the receivers are, but also being, just in case they run a draw, quarterback bails out or tries to run the ball, they don't get to a spot with any quickness and urgency. Where I look at Edgerrin, I see him be able to do that. And honestly, Keith, like, if Payton Wilson didn't have the medicals, I think he would be a second round pick. I think Edgerrin Cooper is going to be the first linebacker off the board because he doesn't have any medical issues. But similar to Payton Wilson, he can do multiple things that you get him with a really good creative defensive coordinator in the NFL. They're going to love either one of those guys. I absolutely love Edgerrin Cooper out of Texas A&M.
No, I like him a lot. Also, your last statement, Ryan, we talked about Payton Wilson. You were saying if you think he didn't have any medicals, you think he'd be a first rounder or a second rounder?
I think if Payton didn't have the medicals, I think he could probably sneak. I think both of these guys, in my opinion, could potentially would have been like in a normal draft. This ain't a normal draft that we're watching that we're about to encounter next week with all the offensive talent. It's so offensive just
Heavy.
loaded, right? Like in multiple positions. I think if this was a normal draft where it's more balanced, I think you can make a case for both guys being late first. But if I think we talked about it months ago, the way the NFL and the NFL media treats linebackers is the same way they treat running backs. The linebackers are the running backs of the defense, where it's like you claim you don't need one until you don't have one, right?
Yep.
Like these are playmakers on the second level. You need guys like this, guys that can impact the run and pass game. I don't know when the value of linebackers will return, Keith, but I feel like we need to get back to that. Get back to real football, because not crediting and disrespecting the linebacker position. I'm not with that.
Yep. No, I agree with you. And I like I said, I like Edgerrin Cooper. And I like Payton Wilson a lot. I've told you that, right? Like I'm on board. I like him a whole lot. Like I think this guy should probably have the game changer label on him. Like if he's healthy, he's a game changer for a team. DP. My favorite day 2 prospects, though, I have to go back and I'm not introducing any new names, right? It's just probably doubling down and tripling down on how I feel about a couple guys. And I'm gonna start with Johnny Wilson, DP. I don't. This has been. And he's hard to be out of sight, out of mind, because he's almost 6'7", 240 pounds. But I just think he's such a unique prospect that we're not talking about. And you're talking about the release package, the ability to beat press man at 6'6", 6'7", like body anatomy wise, right? Most guys cannot do that because they don't have the foot quickness. So I look at a guy like Johnny Wilson and say, man, why is he one of my favorite day 2 prospects? Because I think he has a unique skill set that ultimately could translate to being a problem on an NFL field, right? This guy 6'6", big body guy, can go up and get the football, can, beat press coverage, can beat off man, right? Can beat off coverage, work in the middle of the field. I think that he goes to a team, obviously, quote unquote, with a high volume passer. This can be a high volume producer. He can be an important piece, a vital piece. And I'm looking at it from the perspective of this, like everybody's, pushing the rest of the wide receivers up, right? And for different reasons. You talk about your Roman Wilsons, your Jacob Cowings and things like that. I think if you're a certain team and you're like, okay, cool, if Johnny Wilson falls for whatever reason, right, to the 3rd round, and you're like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and add him with somebody else, like you're talking about a really good situation, even just something as simple as Johnny Wilson with the Cincinnati Bengals, right, with Joe Burrow, and you're like, that could work, right? Like that's how you kind of feel about it, because just a high-level quarterback, and he's a guy that can get the football. And then just rounding out my day 2 prospects, just guys, I just feel really good about it. And that's Brendan Rice, and that's Javon Baker as wide receivers also. I feel really good about these guys being high-level number 2s for an NFL offense. And when I say high-level number 2s, I'm talking about Stephon Diggs and then the Adam Thielen, right? The Adam Thielen to the Stephon Diggs. I'm talking Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson, right? I think these guys have the potential to be really complimentary to a number 1 wide receiver and be reliable playmakers on the outside.
Keith, I'll stay on the defensive side of the ball to close it out. Texas A&M, crazy enough, I'm staying with Texas A&M.
Yeah, you are deep in Aggie land today.
I am deep in the Aggie land right now. McKinley Jackson, man, the nose tackle, 0-1 tech, big body guy, Keith, and for a 320-pound guy and what he's listed, which I'll get the official measurements in a second. Like watching him, like just fire off the ball. I actually like really appreciated the quickness that he has in his body, right? Like he's not just a big body guy that's kind of slow plodding to me. I liked what I saw from him, being able to fire off, get upfield, be active with his hands when he wants to, when he can. He's listed at the combine at 6'1.5", 326 pounds. He had almost 34-inch arms. You know what I mean? So the strength, the power is there. The combine testing, I don't care about, because like when you're 326, almost 330, unless you're Jordan Davis, that 40 time and all that stuff don't matter. You know what I'm saying? Because it really doesn't translate for you.
And I mean, the other side of it, did it even matter for Jordan Davis up to this point?
Touche. Did it really matter in making Jordan Davis an impact player or a game changer, at the next level thus far? No, it hasn't, right? So, just watching McKinley, I think teams that need to get better against the run. You think about the Buffalo Bills and, the Dallas Cowboys, teams that need a 320-pound run stuffer, gap plugger, lane filler. Like he can do that, but he also gives you a little something on passing downs too. In terms of being able to collapse the pocket, win quickly, and slice into gaps for a 326-pound guy. I think he had 6 sacks on the season in the SEC. This is another one of my, I think day 2, that 3rd round, where teams can really boost and bolster their defensive line. I think he'll be a help.
I like that, DP. I like, and it's talking about this interior defensive line position, right? That appears to be, I guess, just slightly underrated, right? Or it's just not a lot of talk. I feel like it's 2 people at the top, and then we just kind of group everybody else together. It's like, they're all right. But I actually think there's gonna be some very talented guys that come out of this draft. With DP, let's keep it going. Let's keep it flowing, man. We are on to what? The sleeper prospects. Yes, DP, you usually have your alarm clock. We didn't get it today, DP. It's time to wake them up, man. It is time to wake them up for the sleeper prospects. So sleeper prospects are coming up next.
When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn is not just another job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get qualified candidates within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. It's time to wake y'all up, guys. You already know what time it is. We're going to talk about these sleeper prospects. What prospects are you still having your head on the pillow when you hear their name called on Twitter or in the draft space? And Keith, I want to start on the front lines, and some people are like, well, DP, the Niners just visited them. They're really doing the bad. I don't care. I'm telling you now, you're still sleeping on my guy, Roger Rosengarten, the offensive tackle out of Washington. Not Troy. Listen, I know Troy fought. We talked to Troy for months. We talked about Troy a lot on this show. Yep. But I love Roger's game, man. I think Roger, when you talk about tackles, this is such a loaded tackle group that I feel like he consistently gets not ignored, but just forgotten. You know what I mean? To an extent. I like his game. The athleticism. He plays with enough functional strength. I think he could get stronger, especially in the lower body. Listed at the combine, listed at 6'5", 310 or 308, almost 310, 33.5-inch arms. A guy that we saw down at the Senior Bowl, Keith. A guy that we saw played not just right, but also left tackle down in the Senior Bowl. And someone that stepped up to the plate. He did not look like a fish out of water at all. He handled it well. Especially flipping to a position that typically he hadn't played because Troy was over there. So watching him, he gets out with quickness. He's got good arm length, hand strength. I just think this is a guy that's going to play 7, 8, be a starter 7, 8 to 10 years on the right side of your offensive line, and you're going to feel real good about that. And whether he's, again, in a loaded tackle group, and when I say I think he's still a sleeper, I would take him 2nd round for teams that need a right tackle or teams that need offensive tackle help, right? I would absolutely run that card let me go ahead and get him in the 2nd round because I think that he has a good ceiling. But I got a feeling, Keith, he might slip to the 3rd. And if he fell to the 3rd, I'm like, man, even the NFL needs to wake up because this kid has a lot of game, man. And he's one of the more underrated offensive tackle prospects in this class.
DP, I've said it once, I've said it twice, and I'm going to go ahead and say it again, right? If your NFL team needs an offensive line, like they need to reboost their offensive line, and they do not do it with the 2024 NFL draft, they messed this up, DP. This class is ridiculous as far as the proven guys, right? Mm-hmm. But also the potential prospects, and we buy into tools and skill sets and traits and things like that. But even those guys are not so far off, right? Like it's even tiers of that. Like I haven't dove all the way into Roger Rosengarten, but from the things I've seen, I like a lot, right? And then to me, he's kind of right in that bucket that you would put the Yale offensive tackle, Kieran Yomagadiji, you would put them, kind of somewhat in the same bucket of, man, these are high level traits. And Roger might even have more. Well, he is more proven, right? Playing in the Pac-12, making it to the, playoffs and championship game and things like that. So I definitely like that call out. DP, I'm going to the East Coast, man, around your neck of the woods. I am going with Duke interior defensive lineman Dwayne Carter. I like him a lot, man. You're talking about quick first step. You're talking about explosive. But what I like is the active hands, DP. Look like this guy has been doing the offseason training, right? The combat stuff. And just the way he's able to quickly defeat offensive lineman in his pass rush, right? But I also like this. He's a heavy-handed guy. Also, you can see when he's going through his hand maneuvers and his hand counters, and then when he decides just to convert speed to power and he puts that impact on you, he can work to start to collapse the pocket. And I think this is a lineman versatile guy, meaning that, do I think he's a stand-up edge rusher? No, he's not that. He's a hand-in-the-ground defensive lineman, but he can rush from multiple alignments, right? You can put him at 1, you can put him at 3, you can put a head up right on the offensive guard and just let him do some different things, twists and stunts. So I think about, go back to the Bengals again, right? Who are very versatile, how they use Trey Hendrickson and, just all of those guys on that defensive line. I think he's a prime prospect for them to take, right? And then we talked about Duke, and we've heard this from Jim Nagy, and we heard this from other people, right? Where they talk about just how smart and intelligent this young man was, right? And then at the Senior Bowl, he people talked about him at the Senior Bowl, right? So I like Dwayne Carter. And then the other guy I just talked about, LSU interior defensive lineman Jordan Jefferson. I know it sounds familiar. This is not the quarterback. This is the interior defensive lineman, man. He's talking about a guy that packs a punch, that can be strong at the point of attack, that has enough quickness that I think can immediately come in and be a part of a rotation. And you think about teams that need a defensive line rotation of, have lost defensive linemen. I think he comes in as a backup, and then he's a glue guy for your roster for a couple years because he will play valuable snaps.
No, I like that, Key, especially Dwayne and Carter call out, because that's a guy that I gave a day 2 grade 2. And when you look, Twitter, X isn't everything, right? But you see a lot of prospect talk on a daily basis during draft season. And when it comes down to that young man, that's not a guy I see mentioned a lot. And it's unfortunate, because he can get after it. And I think he's a starter in this league, Keith. But another guy, I mean, I've been kind of living in the trenches. And then on the defense as well.
You're not going back to Aguilar, huh?
No, I'm not
going. All right, just making sure. I'm just making sure.
Showing them a lot of love. I hope they feel that. But Keith, Utah, the Utes, their edge rusher, Jonah Ellis, coming into the combine at 6'2", 248, almost 250. So that's good. Good weight and build. 33-inch arms. Keith, the guy that, for me, when I watch the tape, like active, motor is ever running, but good pass rusher too. Has multiple moves and counters. He's got a really quick spin move back on the inside. A guy that knows how to threaten that outside threshold for tackles, man, and set guys up to pull them out on that island on his own. And I think for him is just consistently getting better against the run and setting the set point, setting hard edges, not allowing running backs to. If he's on a defense that has good interior defensive linemen, most running backs don't want to run into those guys. So they want to press and jump cut outside. But if you can start setting those edges, whether it's against a tackle or if you're outside, it's on strong side against a tight end, can you make sure that tight end doesn't collapse you down and give that running back a jump cut or a lane to jump cut out into? As long as he consistently develops as a run defender, because I think even as pass rush, he still has room to grow there too in terms of his plan. I think he has a good plan, but I think that you think about Latu and different guys, Aiden Hutchinson, those guys who are just mentally, they're so advanced as rushers where they know what they want to do, they know when they want to do it, by which step. We saw two drafts ago, Jermaine Johnson in Mobile, right? You know what I'm saying? By that second step, Jermaine knew exactly what move he was about to give you, whether it was bull rush, double hand swipe, rip and dip, whatever it was, he knew by that second step before he got ready to plant that third on what he was going to do to that tackle. I think Jonah, that's the next set development for him. But teams that need an edge rusher, they definitely go ahead and look in this young man's and look at his way, man, because he can get after it.
I like that. That's another name that's not spoken about a lot, right? That's why he's on the sleeper segment, but a guy that has high upside. And and you just with the draft runners, like, okay, why are we talking about those sleeper guys? Because you have edge rushers like Max Crosby, right? Who was a day 3 pick, and these guys end up being all Pro Bowl type caliber players. So is you start to get to the point where you realize the draft, some of it is narrative, right? And hate to say popularity part, but we see good players all the time that fall. Like, for instance, Byron Young from Tennessee, who's with the Los Angeles Rams now, right? That was a guy that we were both extremely high on and couldn't understand why he didn't go higher. I remember at one point, DP, I think I mocked him at the bottom of the first round. I was that aggressive in how I felt about Byron Young, and then he falls to the 3rd or 4th round, I believe. But he's one of the most productive rookie edge rushers, and you see exactly what you're seeing on film. But DP, let's keep this thing going, man. Is an exercise that we like to do over here called perfect fits, right? We pick the prospect, we pick the NFL team, and we say that this needs to happen. And I like doing this because it gets you to think a little bit, right? It's a thinking exercise where you have to kind of mix and match, find the right range, find the draft position, and then find a good NFL team. So coming up next, man, we're about to have some fun with perfect fits.
We've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime, and the scoreboard is not looking good. You're feeling low, not sure you or your team can pull out a win. That's when you dig deep, lift up your head, and say to yourself, time to get back in the game. Pull off some bank heists and take as much of my friend's money as I possibly can. That's right, the smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go. Let's compete with your friends to get the most richest and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone anytime, with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. There's so much to do. Play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards. Make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put your game face on, and download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store or Google Play. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Keith, one of our favorite segments and exercises, perfect fits, putting that prospect to the perfect team. And I'm going to go running back here, Keith. Shocker for some people. I'm going to go running back here. And a guy that he didn't have the best workout at the combine. But I think about Audric Estime out of Notre Dame, right? Mm-hmm. The 5'11", 220-pound bowling ball running back. And I thought about a couple different teams that I could pair him to. And I was like, all right, best situation for him. I would honestly say I would absolutely love him in Minnesota. And the reason why is putting him in an offense where, because he runs with patience, pad leverage. Well, he's a forward leaner, runs physical and hard, but that bowling ball mentality, right? You know what I'm saying? You try to get that strike, that bowling ball at full speed is gonna knock those pins down. That's the type of runner he is. And he had, I think he posts like a 38-inch vert or something crazy like that, which made that 4.71 wild to see, because typically guys that jump high run faster than that. So like he has good, explosiveness to his game. I think he's solid in catching the football. May not be he's not going to be a McCaffrey, a Kamara, Gibbs, Bijan. He's not going to do any of that stuff, but he's good in pass protection for what I've seen. And I think putting him in that offense, for one, having Aaron Jones, which means he doesn't have to be the bell cow out the gate. Aaron Jones is only there for a year. So one, you kind of save his body for a year. He comes in, spells Aaron Jones. If Aaron Jones is the Green Bay Packers were like last year and the year before, where he's going to be your RB1 for the most part, cool. And then you can allow Audric Estime, and you don't even have to get him in the 3rd round. I think you can get him in like the 4th. Get him in the 4th, 5th round, and you allow him to be that backup. I know they still have our guy, Ty Chandler, there, who's more of the pass catcher, where those two could potentially be the future in your backfield, right? Where you can run those two together over the next couple of years. But with Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, Justin Jefferson, and it's either going to be Drake May or JJ McCarthy at this point. It's going to be one of those guys. And I think that's where it's going to end up being when it comes down to the Minnesota Vikings or who's going to be starting that quarterback for them in 2024 is either JJ or Drake. And then, of course, they got Sam Darnold with the weapons around him. And whenever he does see the field, he won't see heavy. You don't want to give 8-man boxes. That's what, for me, that's the ideal landing spot for a running back. I want to go to an offense that got a lot of weapons, so you can forget about me. You know what I mean? I don't want to see 8, 9, and 10-man fronts. No, forget all that. Give me too high, baby, because you got to worry about Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison cooking on the outside. That way, it also gives your quarterback, especially your young quarterback, Keith, the ability to check in and out of runs based on the safety looks that they see. It makes it easier pre-snap for a quarterback to walk down and see too high and say, you know what? we're gonna run this. 1st and 10. I got a 6-man box. Oh yeah, we're running this. Let's get Audric Estime going downhill. And I think when you think about those 8-minute, 6 to 8 minute drives and offenses in the fourth quarter
to kind of close it out.
Perfect for that.
When you have the lead, and it was just watching, I think that was LaDainian Tomlinson. Yeah, he was talking about one of their losses to the Patriots, and I think they was up. I can't remember, but he was just talking about. Yeah, he was just talking about the importance of running the football, right, and getting into like not just your 4-minute offense, right, but your 8-minute offense or your offense when we up by 10, right, in the third quarter, and we trying to get out of here with a win, right. You need that ground and pound type of back, right, to where you're not putting the ball in harm's way. You know that you're consistently eating up the clock, right, because the clock can never stop, right, because you're running the football, not passing it. So I think especially a team like the Minnesota Vikings, that type of balance and sustaining that type of balance, right, to be not what they were with Dalvin Cook, but it'll look a little different with Aaron Jones. And if you add in, like you said, Audric Estime, I do think it'll be a good situation. DP, the perfect fits I'm gonna go with, man. I'm looking at the Philadelphia Eagles, right? And they have 2 second-round picks. They have pick 50 and pick 53. And I'm looking at their team, right? And what an automatic team needs, right? Obviously, they lost, Jason Kelsey, right, the center position, but you kind of drafted ahead of your time in a sense, and that's the reason why you drafting stash, right? You have Cam Jurgens to step right in. And I think the rest of this offensive line is okay. You probably could go and get some depth, if you want to later on in a draft because there's a deep class. But the thing that comes to me first, DP, is this defensive line, right? Because they also they lost. Why am I blanking? Fletcher Cox. Yeah, they lost Fletcher Cox. So they also need an edge rusher type, right? And I know with Brandon Graham there, they've had, this hybrid type situation. So I'm looking at a guy like a Marshawn Nealon, a guy we don't talk about at all, right? Like a hybrid. He's 6'3" 265 pounds. Had an opportunity to talk to him at the Senior Bowl. I feel like he's a good young man, right? Good young man heading into the draft. Has his head on his shoulders, was teammates with Braden Fisk. So you're talking about Western Michigan probably had the best 1-2 tandem at their interior defensive line position a year ago, that is insane to say that. So yeah, whoever's their director of recruiting and director of personnel over there, shout out to you guys for identifying those prospects out of high school. But yeah, I like Braden Fisk. And then I'm also look at this because I feel like they went back and forth. And CJ Gardner-Johnson is back there, right? But I think they still need some versatility amongst the defensive back group. Obviously, flat-out corner is a need, but I think they can use a versatile guy like a Jerrion Jones, right? Another nickel corner safety hybrid. So you add in those 2 young guys, and I think Jerrion will probably be more impactful earlier just because of the positional need, right? But I like both of those guys as just solid second-round picks at pick 50, pick 53, however you want to flip-flop them. But they fill, in my opinion, positional needs, right? And then you also, you're able to get some versatile guys, and both of them are versatile in what they do.
No, I love that, especially the Marshawn Nealon fit key, the 6'3", almost 270 pounds, 34.5-inch arms. He tested well too at a 4.75, carrying 270 pounds to run a 4.75 is a good time for a big guy like that. And like you said, the dominance that he showcased at Western Michigan, even after you lose Braden Fisk, with teams know you're the guy, and he still was able to get back there consistently and make plays. Now I like that a lot because, again, like you said, the hybrid kind of looks to where if Nolan Smith takes a step forward, you can then slide, Marshawn down, as a stand-up rusher over guards with his arm length and his get off and strength. and everything to still collapse the pocket alongside of Jalen Carter, kind of playing as that true defensive lineman. That you got Bryce Huff. That would give them a really talented and versatile third down rush package.
And I like Brandon Graham being there because not that they're exactly similar in body type, but Brandon Graham isn't the 245-pound, 6'4", long-armed edge rusher, right? Like, this is a compactly built guy who, even when he entered the NFL, there were questions of how exactly is he going to win, right? But he's been in the league 10, 12 years. At this point, he's figured it out. And I think just learning the little tricks of the trade from a guy like Brandon Graham bodes well for a player like a Marshawn Nealon, who is also versatile and a lineman. DP, it wraps up another episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to say shout out to Everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. If you haven't hit the like button, go hit the like button. If you haven't commented, drop a comment. Let us know who are your favorite day 2 prospects and who are your sleeper prospects. Listen, I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me at X at The Talent Code. That right there is my co-host, man. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we always like to see, y'all talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. And we know what we always tell you. Come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.